Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The moment Harrison appeared in the doorway, pale-faced and trembling with a mixture of terror and determination, the entire world seemed to deafen around him, and Claire felt her lungs collapse as though the oxygen had been violently sucked out of the room. Kyle stood frozen, halfway between confusion and disbelief, watching as the boy he practically helped raise took a single step forward, eyes burning with a truth so heavy that even he, sweet, innocent Harrison, could no longer carry it alone. For weeks, Claire had walked around Genoa City pretending nothing was wrong, pretending the monster inside her was still asleep, pretending her past wasn't stalking her like a shadow with teeth. But now, with Harrison standing there, hands shaking, voice cracking, and those 7 fatal words he muttered, "Claire told me what she really did," everything snapped open like a trap Kyle didn't see coming. Claire's heart dropped hard, because she knew Harrison wasn't supposed to remember, he wasn't supposed to talk, he wasn't supposed to betray her after everything she did to protect herself. Yet here he was, unraveling her careful lies thread by thread while Kyle's eyes widened, horror settling over him like a cold, merciless wave. Claire tried to speak, but the boy's words overshot her excuses, and suddenly Harrison was recounting every terrible thing she thought she had buried, the manipulation, the threats, the staged accidents, the night she whispered secrets into his ear thinking he was too upset, too traumatized, to ever recall them. But he remembered everything. Every chilling detail. Every slip of her mask. He remembered Claire's confession about sabotaging Kyle and Summer's reconciliation. He remembered her admitting she had used him to get closer to Kyle, to exploit his vulnerabilities, to entangle herself in the Abbott family. And worst of all, he remembered her talking about Holden, how Holden wasn't just some harmless old acquaintance but the man she believed might be Harrison's real father, a truth she dangled as leverage, a weapon she threatened to reveal the moment things didn't go her way. The room trembled with the weight of the revelation as Harrison spoke, voice growing stronger with every sentence, fueled by weeks of fear and guilt. Kyle staggered back like he'd been punched. "Claire, is this true?" he choked. The betrayal carved into his voice made Claire's stomach twist. She reached for him, desperate, but Kyle recoiled as if her touch itself were poison. And then Harrison, shaking harder now, whispered the one thing no one expected, "Mommy, Claire hurt people, and she said she'd hurt more." A collective gasp tore through the air. Claire tried to deny it, but her face betrayed her panic, and Kyle's expression shifted from shock to fury. He realized Harrison wasn't lying, he couldn't lie about something this terrifying, something he didn't even fully understand. But Kyle understood. And as the truth dawned on him, so did the horrifying clarity of Holden's involvement. Because Harrison didn't stop there. No, he told Kyle that Holden had met Claire in secret, that he had whispered to her about finishing what they started, that he had pressured her to reclaim control over her life and silence anyone who threatened her. And the bombshell detonated when Harrison repeated Holden's chilling words, "He called me his insurance." Kyle felt physically sick. Harrison, used as leverage between Claire and Holden? His hand shook as he whispered, "Holden, why would he say that?" And then the dots connected with a brutality that made Kyle's knees buckle. Holden wasn't just tied to Claire. Holden wasn't just manipulating her. Holden had believed, for a long time, that Harrison was his son, and Claire had used that delusion, fed it, cultivated it, letting Holden act as her silent partner in whatever twisted game she was playing. But it didn't stop there. Harrison revealed that Claire had been planning to use the truth, real or not, whenever she needed to secure her place, her power, or her escape. Kyle's world shattered. He couldn't breathe. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a calculated, methodical manipulation that involved his child, his family, his life. Claire tried to spin it, "Kyle, I did it for us. You don't understand how scared I was." But Harrison's small, broken voice cut through her lies like a blade. "She told me not to tell, she said bad things would happen if I broke the rules. And that was it." Kyle snapped. His voice echoed with a rage he'd never directed at her before. You threatened my son? Claire's facade crumbled. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape, because she could feel the walls closing in. This was the moment she'd been terrified of. This was the moment she knew would come if Harrison ever remembered. And then, like a dagger twisting deeper, Harrison added tremblingly, Holden said he'd help Claire, because he owed her, and because he loves her. The room fell silent. Kyle froze, pale, breathless, wounded beyond anything she had ever inflicted on him before. Holden. Claire. Love. Lies. Manipulation. Paternity threats. His child in danger. And Claire's dark secrets laid bare right in front of him by the one person she underestimated, sweet, gentle Harrison. Claire tried to scream that Harrison misunderstood, but Kyle wasn't listening anymore. His voice was cold. Dead. Final. Get out, he whispered. Before I call security. Before I call the police. Before I do something I won't regret. Claire stepped back, trembling. Kyle, please, get out. Harrison flinched. Claire froze. Kyle looked at her like she was a stranger, a monster who had slithered into his life wearing the skin of someone he loved. She tried once more to beg, to reach him, to salvage the last shred of the illusion she had so meticulously crafted, but the illusion was gone. Harrison had ripped it apart. Holden had poisoned whatever sympathy she might have had left. And Kyle was done. As Claire backed out of the room, tears streaking her face, the realization hit her with brutal force, this was only the beginning of her nightmare. Because Kyle wasn't just angry. He was a father. A protector. A man pushed beyond his limit. And Claire had crossed a line she could never uncross. She fled into the hallway, breaths frantic, mind racing for her next move, because if Holden thought she was still on his side, he was wrong. And if Kyle thought he knew the worst of it, he was wrong too. Harrison's confession wasn't the end. It was the first spark. And when Holden found out Harrison had exposed their secret? When Kyle confronted him? When the truth about whether Holden or Kyle was Harrison's biological father finally exploded? Genoa City wouldn't just be shocked. It would be devastated. And Claire? Claire would be hunted, from both sides, cornered by the consequences of the darkness she tried so desperately to keep buried. Her nightmare had begun. And her chances of surviving it were already slipping away. Claire staggered down the hallway of the Abbott mansion like a ghost running from a fire only she could see, her breath hitching violently as she stumbled against the wall, fingers trembling, heart pounding in her chest like a trapped animal desperate to chew through its own cage. Everything was unraveling faster than she could process. Harrison remembered. Harrison talked. Kyle believed him. And Holden, somewhere out there circling like a vulture waiting for the perfect moment to strike, had no idea that the boy he obsessed over, the boy he once claimed might be his flesh and blood, had just exposed the very secret that bound them all in a suffocating web. Claire squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the rising spiral of panic clawing up her throat. She had planned for many things, betrayals, questions, emotional breaks, confrontations she could manipulate, but she never, not once, planned for Harrison to be the one who destroyed her. She underestimated him. She underestimated his memory, his bravery, his innocence. And now, because of that miscalculation, the house of cards she built so carefully was collapsing around her with a violent, unstoppable force. Behind her, inside the living room she just fled from, Kyle sank onto the edge of the sofa, shoulders shaking, face buried in his hands. Harrison crawled into his lap instinctively, tiny fingers gripping the fabric of his father's shirt as if holding on for dear life, as if afraid Claire might reappear and punish him for the truth he spoke. Kyle wrapped his arms around his son, shielding him, absorbing his trembling. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Buddy, you did the right thing." But those words tasted like ash. Because Kyle wasn't just grieving the betrayal, he was grieving the woman he thought Claire was. The one he trusted. The one he tried to believe in even when others warned him. The one he defended repeatedly, blind to the warning signs because he wanted so badly to see goodness where there was only darkness. Now he saw clearly. And what he saw made him sick. In the hallway, Claire pressed her forehead to the cool plaster, forcing herself to breathe, forcing her mind to straighten out the spiral of chaos. She couldn't crumble now. She couldn't afford to. Holden would find her. He always did. And once he discovered that Harrison had exposed their involvement, or worse, that Claire cracked under pressure and revealed anything, he would turn on her with a viciousness she knew he was capable of. Holden always said he loved her. Loved her darkness. Loved their connection. Loved that she was the only one who understood him. But Holden's love was a weapon. A leash. A cage. And if he thought she was slipping out of line? His love would morph into something lethal. She needed a plan. She needed time. She needed a way to keep both Kyle and Holden from destroying her in their anger. But time was the one thing she no longer had. Before she could steady herself, the sharp echo of footsteps approached from the opposite end of the hallway. Claire's heart jerked. She turned and saw Jack Abbott striding toward her, jaw clenched, eyes sharp with simmering suspicion. Suspicion he had harbored for months but never voiced fully, out of respect for Kyle's choices. But now? Now the restraint was gone. "Claire," Jack said, voice low and cold, "where are you going?" She swallowed hard. "Jack. I think I should leave before this gets worse." "Worse?" Jack hissed. "Claire, my grandson just stood in that room shaking like he'd been through a war zone. My son is devastated. And you want to talk about worse?" Claire backed away a step, but Jack stopped her with a single, lethal glare. "What did you do to Harrison?" She opened her mouth to deny it, to feign innocence, to cry, to manipulate, but Jack's voice cracked like a whip. "Do not lie." Claire froze. For the first time in a long time, she realized she had absolutely no leverage in this house, not with Jack, not with Kyle, not with Harrison. The Abbotts were circling her like wolves now, and she was cornered. She trembled. I never meant for any of this to happen." "That's not an answer," Jack snapped. "But don't worry. We'll get the truth, the whole truth, one way or another." The implication was clear. The Abbotts would protect their own. Claire was no longer considered one of them. As Jack stormed past her toward the living room, Claire slipped out the front door in a frantic escape. She practically threw herself into her car, fumbling with the keys, her vision blurring with tears. She had ruined everything. But she wasn't done yet. She couldn't be. She started the engine and sped out of the driveway, tires screeching against the pavement in a frantic scream of rubber and desperation. She didn't know where she was going, just that she had to get away, had to regroup, had to think. She could fix this. She had to fix this. Because the alternative, losing Kyle, being hunted by Holden, being exposed to Genoa City, would destroy her. And Claire Newman refused to be destroyed. Not without taking down the people who pushed her to this breaking point. Back inside, the emotional aftershocks continued like rolling seismic waves. Jack burst into the living room, eyes immediately landing on Kyle and Harrison. "Is she gone?" Kyle asked, voice thick. "For now," Jack answered grimly. "But Kyle, I need to hear it from you. What exactly did Harrison say?" Harrison buried his face in Kyle's shirt again, whimpering softly. Kyle smoothed his hair gently, trying to steady himself so he could repeat the horrifying truth. When he did, when he recounted every word, every confession, every threat, Jack's expression darkened into something Kyle rarely saw, unfiltered fury. "She used that boy," Jack growled. "Manipulated him. Threatened him. And Holden's involved?" Kyle nodded. "He thinks Harrison might be his son." Jack's entire body tensed. "Over my dead body." The Abbotts didn't take kindly to outsiders threatening their family, especially not a predator like Holden Novak. And the idea that he could be tied to Harrison in any way sent a cold, nauseating fury through Jack's veins. "We're going to find Holden," Jack said. "And we're going to put an end to this." Kyle didn't disagree. He pulled Harrison closer and whispered, "I'm not letting anything happen to you. I promise." Harrison finally lifted his head, eyes red and swollen. "Daddy, is Claire going to hurt us?" Kyle's heart shattered all over again. "No," he whispered. "Not anymore." But even as he said it, a part of him knew it wasn't over. Claire wasn't the type to disappear quietly. She was dangerous when cornered. And Holden? Holden was worse. Kyle looked at his father, dread twisting in his stomach. "Dad, we need to tell Summer." Jack nodded. "We will. And we'll handle this as a family." Meanwhile, Claire wasn't driving aimlessly anymore. Her survival instincts kicked in. She knew exactly where she needed to go, the one place she hoped she could still control the situation. Holden's apartment. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel as she pulled into the shadowed parking lot of the building, heart hammering with dread and adrenaline. Holden opened the door before she even knocked, eyes wild, breath sharp. "Claire," he hissed, grabbing her wrist and yanking her inside. "Where have you been?" "I've been calling you." The tone was wrong, too aggressive, too territorial, too expectant. Claire swallowed hard. "We have a problem." Holden's jaw clenched. "Harrison." It wasn't a question. "He told Kyle," Claire whispered. "He remembered everything." Holden's eyes darkened in a way that made Claire's skin crawl. "Did he mention me?" "Yes," she breathed. "He told Kyle about everything. That you called him your insurance. That you said you loved me. That you thought he might be your son." Holden's reaction was instantaneous, a chilling, violent shift. He grabbed her shoulders and shoved her back against the wall so hard she gasped. "Why did you let him talk?" "I didn't let him," she cried. "He was scared, Holden. He panicked." "And Kyle?" Holden snarled. "Kyle is the least of our problems. If that kid exposes us, he already has." Claire shouted, tears spilling again. Holden's grip tightened. "Then we fix it." Claire stiffened. "How?" Holden leaned in, voice lowering into a dangerous whisper. "We silence the threat." Claire froze. Silence Harrison? No. She had done terrible things, unforgivable things, but harming that boy was a line she would never cross. "Holden, no," she whispered, voice trembling. "We're not touching Harrison." Holden's eyes narrowed with a predatory coldness. "You've gotten soft." "Soft?" Claire spat. "He's just a kid." "A kid who ruined everything," Holden hissed. Claire shoved him back, panic exploding through her. "I'm done, Holden. I'm not helping you hurt him. I'm not helping you hurt anyone." Holden stared at her, and in that moment, Claire knew she made a catastrophic mistake. His expression shifted from anger to something much more terrifying. Calculation. "You think you get to walk away?" he whispered. "You think you can abandon me now? After everything we've done? After everything I've done for you?" Claire backed toward the door, heart thundering. "This isn't love, Holden. This is obsession." Holden's jaw ticked. "You belong to me." Claire shook her head. "Not anymore." Holden laughed softly, a sound colder than the winter air outside. "Claire. Claire, you don't understand." He stepped closer. "If Harrison exposed you, he exposed both of us. The Abbotts will come for me next." "Then run," she snapped. "Do whatever you need to. But leave me out of it." Holden's smile faded. "I can't do that." Then his eyes hardened. "Because if I go down, you go down too." Claire's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Holden whispered, "that if you won't help me, you're my next problem." Claire felt a jolt of icy fear shoot through her spine. Holden reached behind him, toward his jacket, toward something hidden. Claire didn't wait. She bolted. She sprinted out the door, down the stairwell, out into the parking lot, fumbling to unlock her car again as Holden's footsteps thundered behind her. She jumped inside, slammed the lock, and screeched out of the lot as Holden slammed his fists against the window, roaring her name. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Holden was no longer her partner, he was her predator. And now? Now he was out for blood. Back at the Abbott house, Jack finished making phone calls, to security, to investigators, to Victor Newman, and finally to Summer. There was no keeping this quiet. Claire and Holden had crossed a line no one could ignore. Kyle stayed with Harrison, sitting on the sofa, holding his son while the boy cried from fear and guilt and exhaustion. "Daddy, is it my fault?" Kyle's heart splintered. "No," he whispered fiercely. "None of this is your fault. You're brave. You told the truth." Harrison sniffed. "But Claire said, if I told," Kyle cupped his son's face gently. "Claire was wrong. And I won't ever let her hurt you again." Harrison finally rested his head on Kyle's chest, clutching his father's shirt as if trying to merge into him for safety. Kyle kissed the top of his head, tears slipping silently down his cheeks as he whispered promises he wasn't sure he could keep. But he would try. He had to. Because now, with Claire exposed and Holden unhinged, the danger wasn't over, it was escalating. And somewhere out there, Claire was running from the man she once trusted. And Holden was hunting her. And the truth about Harrison's real father, whether it was Kyle or Holden, was about to explode. Because